Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing top 10 Netflix horror movies that don't suck. Because I know that Netflix has literally the worst selection of horror movies out of every single streaming service in my opinion. So here are 10 that are actually worth your time in my opinion. First up, we have Creep. Now this movie is about a man who gets hired to film a documentary about this other dude's life, kind of in the middle of nowhere. They're in a forest. And the other guy is dying of cancer, so he wants to film his final wishes for his family. So he hires this guy to go do it. But the more the guy films this other guy's life, the more things happen that start to get weirder and weirder. This movie takes a huge turn. It's super shocking. So if you're looking for something with a good twist, really creepy vibes in the middle of the forest, this one is the perfect one to check out. There's also a sequel, so there's 2 Creep movies and a TV series, and all of them are good, so you could check out the whole series and they're all gonna be super entertaining. Next up, we have the movie Circle. Now, this film is pretty underrated. I don't really hear many people talking about it. But the premise of it is that a group of strangers wakes up and they're in this really dark room and they're in this like weird circle and they don't really know what's happening or how they got there. But essentially what they have to do is they have to choose one person out of the entire circle of strangers that they are going to let live. So one by one, these people are being cut out of the circle, and there's a lot of social issues within the circle. It kind of shows what would happen if you actually had to make a huge decision like this with a group of strangers, which would be the worst thing ever. So this movie is really surprising. The ending really shook me. If you're looking for something that has some good social commentary as well as a lot of anxiety-inducing moments, this one is a perfect one to check out. Next up, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this one if you're a horror movie fan, but Hereditary is now on Netflix. This movie is about a young girl who passes away under very tragic circumstances. You'll find out when you watch. But the family struggles with their grieving process, but they also uncover a very dark family history alongside with it. And the family starts to slowly go insane until a lot of crazy stuff is revealed at the end, which I find this movie very shocking. If you've never seen it before, you have to check it out. I think that it's really well done. Great acting, especially from Toni Collette. So if you're looking for something that's really cinematically beautiful and also has some incredible acting in it, this one is definitely the one to check out because I think this one should have won an Oscar, honestly. It's so good. Next up, we have one that's a little on the sillier side, but this movie is called The Babysitter. It is about a young man who has a really hot babysitter that he really loves, but this babysitter is hiding a very dark secret and she gets her friends involved and the little boy is meant to be sacrificed. And now the boy has to figure out how to escape his crazy babysitter and her friends when they're literally trying to kill him. So this one's really campy. It's really funny. It's not really scary at all, but if you're looking for something a little more lighthearted to watch on Netflix, this one would be a great option. Next up, we have another one that a lot of people have talked about. This one is the remake of It. Now, the original of It is also very good, but it's not on Netflix. The remake is, however. So if you haven't heard of the movie It is about a group of children who live in a town called Derry, and every 30 years a clown named Pennywise comes to town and he terrorizes children. He literally preys on the children's worst fears. So just some examples, one of the kids is a big hypochondriac and has OCD, and so Pennywise uses that fear to literally create his own personal hell, which as someone with OCD, that is literally my worst nightmare. Pennywise is super scary in this film. It's really well done. I honestly like the remake better than the original. So this one is just an overall really great film. Next up, we have an underrated gem. I have talked about this movie before in a previous video, but this film is called Incantation. It is a Taiwanese film that is about a young mother who loses custody of her daughter but then gains custody back, and she starts to realize that her daughter is acting in a very strange way and she can't exactly figure out why. You'll soon discover why that is and what exactly is happening to the daughter, but the mom has a really dark past and she did something very, very wrong. Honestly, I can't believe what this mom does when she was younger before she actually had her baby. This movie is crazy. It'll make you feel like you've been cursed. It's honestly one of the scarier films I've seen. So if you're looking for something scary, I think that this one might be the scariest on the list. And it's really well acted, really well done. So overall, a great movie, a super underrated gem. And I wish more people would check this one out because this one is literally one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So if you're gonna watch one on this list, please watch that one. Next up, we have another movie that I have talked about also in a previous video, and this film is called The Ritual. It is about a group of friends who goes camping in the Swedish wilderness, and they start to not only become injured from just general hiking issues, but also they become lost within the wilderness and they start to go a little crazy and you're not really sure what's real and what's not. So if you want something that kind of messes with your mind, this one's a great not only psychological thriller, but also a great paranormal thriller. So I would say that this is one of the scarier ones on this list. I really enjoy this one. If you really like the Blair Witch Project, then you'll probably like this one because they're very similar, but honestly, I think The Ritual is better than the Blair Witch Project. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but they're both super good, but this one just is a little tiny bit better. Next up, we have Gerald's Game. This is a Stephen King book to film adaptation similar to the movie It. And this one is about a woman and her husband. They are middle-aged and trying to spice up their relationship, so they go to a remote location, like a little house or a cabin in the middle of the woods, and they decide to do a little bit of light BDSM, and she gets handcuffed to the bed, but the husband dies during all of this and she gets stuck handcuffed to the bed, and there's a lot of weird things that start to happen. You don't really know what's real and what's fake because she starts to go a little crazy because she literally can't escape from the bed. So there's a lot of really, really creepy moments, including a weird toe scene. You'll know once you watch it, but this one's honestly kind of funny to me. It's not really super scary. There are some scary moments, but I think it's kind of campy in an odd way. So if you're looking for something just kind of silly to watch with your friends, I think that this would be a good one because there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in it. Next up, we have a zombie movie. This is a Korean film called #Alive. I think that this is a super underrated film, but it is about a man who is pretty much locking himself in his apartment because he realizes that his apartment is suddenly infested with zombies and that the entire city is becoming a zombie apocalypse. But then he starts to notice that somebody else is alive in the apartment, so he's trying to communicate with her so they could team together and fight the zombies. But the zombies are really, really scary in this one, and I honestly think as far as zombie movies, it would probably be in one of my top 10 favorite zombie movies. I think that this kind of got overlooked, but this movie is fantastic. I'm not really too terrified of zombies because I don't really think a zombie apocalypse is gonna happen, or at least I hope it doesn't. But in the case that it does, I think that this guy had some really smart ideas. So maybe you could get some tips and tricks from this film for a zombie apocalypse. Lastly, we have a movie that got talked about quite a bit. I remember seeing posts on Facebook saying that this was the scariest film of all time. Do I agree with that? No. But this film is actually pretty scary. It's called Veronica and is about a young girl who does a seance at her school with a group of other girls, and they're trying to summon a demon, which never goes right, obviously. Don't try to summon demons at home, you guys. But the demon follows her home and slowly possession happens and there's a lot of weird paranormal activity in her house and things start to go really, really, really bad. That's all I'm gonna say about this film. There's some really, really scary jump scares in this one. So if you're a fan of exorcisms and paranormal activity and some demons, then this one is a good one to check out. I think that it was pretty scary, not the scariest film I've ever seen, but honestly, I think it had some good scares in it. So those are my top 10 Netflix horror movie faves. There's not very many on there that I actually enjoy. I'll be sure to make one for Tubi and Hulu as well because I think they have a much better selection. But let me know if you guys have seen any of these films and what you think of them. And if you have any Netflix faves, recommend them to me in the comments because I would love to check them out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye guys!